The regolith crunched beneath Milo Tyrannus's boots as he trudged across the desolate lunar surface. Each step kicked up a small cloud of dust that hung momentarily in the low gravity before settling back to the ground. Through his visor, he watched the Earth hanging like a blue-green jewel in the black sky, a constant reminder of what he'd left behind 3 years ago. 17 credits, Milo muttered to himself, the words echoing in his helmet. 17 lousy credits between me and a one-way ticket to the recycling plant. His jury-rigged EVA suit hissed slightly at the seams, a sound he'd grown accustomed to but never comfortable with. The suit was at least 2 safety inspections past its certification date, but certification inspectors cost credits he didn't have. The oxygen recycler whirred with a slight rattle that hadn't been there last week. Another problem for another day. Lunar Colony Epsilon sprawled behind him, its pressurized modules and tunnels carved into ancient lava tubes beneath the surface. From here, the colony looked almost impressive, solar arrays stretching across the gray landscape, the occasional flash of a transport shuttle arriving or departing. But Milo knew better. Epsilon was a scrappy mining outpost, home to those desperate enough to risk their lives extracting rare minerals from the moon's crust for corporations that cared little whether their workers lived or died. His scanner beeped insistently, drawing his attention back to the task at hand. He was deep in the Desolation Zone, the unofficial name for the crater-riddled section of the lunar surface where colony officials explicitly forbade civilians from venturing. Something about radiation levels and unstable terrain. More likely, Milo thought, they just didn't want independent salvagers like him finding anything valuable before the corporate teams could claim it. The scanner's tone changed, its pitch rising as it registered something substantial beneath the surface. Milo adjusted the sensitivity, frowning at the readout. The metallic signature was massive, far larger than the usual debris he scavenged. His heart rate quickened. This could be something worthwhile, maybe even enough to get him out of debt. "I come to Papa," he whispered, kneeling to brush away the regolith with his gloved hands. The first touch of metal sent a jolt through Milo that had nothing to do with electricity. It was smooth, impossibly smooth, and unlike any alloy he'd encountered in his years as a mechanic. Methodically, he cleared more of the lunar dust, revealing a section of hull that gleamed in the harsh sunlight as if it had been polished moments ago rather than buried under regolith for who knew how long. No impact scars, no signs of damage, no markings of any kind that might indicate its origin. Milo's breath caught in his throat. This wasn't human technology, at least, not any he recognized. And humans were the only spacefaring species in this part of the galaxy. Or so everyone believed. The section he'd uncovered was roughly 2 meters across, but the scanner indicated the object extended at least 30 meters in either direction. A ship. An alien ship. His hand hovered over the surface, torn between the instinct to touch and the fear of what might happen if he did. The colony had protocols for first contact situations, drilled into every resident during orientation. He should report this. Contact colony security, wait for the experts, and watch as they claim the discovery while he got a pat on the back and maybe a month's worth of oxygen credits if he was lucky. "To hell with that," Milo muttered, pressing his palm against the hull. Immediately, lines of light bloomed beneath his hand, geometric patterns spreading outward like living circuitry. The patterns converged about a meter away, forming a rectangular outline that sank inward with a soft hiss. A doorway. Milo stared at the opening, his heart hammering against his ribs. Every survival instinct screamed at him to back away, to run, but 17 credits wouldn't get him off this rock, and whatever lay inside might just be his ticket to a better life. He stepped through the doorway. The interior was dark for only a moment before soft ambient light began to glow from the walls, illuminating a corridor that curved gently to the right. The air pressure normalized almost instantly, and a green indicator light blinked on his helmet display, showing the atmosphere was breathable. With trembling fingers, Milo released his helmet seals and lifted it off. The air inside was cool and clean, with a faint scent like ozone after a thunderstorm. He took a cautious breath, then another, waiting for his lungs to protest. Nothing. If anything, he felt more energized than he had in months. "Hello?" he called, his voice sounding small in the corridor. "Anyone home?" No response. He moved forward, trailing his fingers along the wall. The material felt warm, almost organic, though it was clearly some kind of metal or composite. The corridor opened into a larger chamber dominated by what appeared to be a control console, or at least, that's what Milo assumed the raised platform with its array of softly glowing surfaces might be. As he approached, a voice spoke, seemingly from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Primary user detected. Systems initializing after extended hibernation. Welcome aboard." Milo nearly jumped out of his skin. "Who's there?" "I am Alfred 29S7, exploration vessel of the Pleiades Concordance. You may call me Alfie, if you prefer. Most users do." The voice was neither male nor female, neither robotic nor entirely organic. It carried a quality Milo couldn't quite define, like listening to water, if water could speak. "Alfie," Milo repeated, testing the name. "And I'm the primary user. You are the first sentient being to make physical contact with my hull in 103 standard years. 47 days, 14 hours. According to protocol, this establishes you as primary user until formal transfer or termination of services." Milo's mind raced. An alien ship, intact, functional, and apparently now considering him its captain or owner, was the kind of discovery that could rewrite history. The finder's fee alone would set him up for life, but finder's fees only applied if you reported your discovery. And the colonial authority would certainly confiscate the vessel, study it in secret, and probably weaponize whatever technology they could understand. Milo would be lucky if they didn't classify him as a security risk and disappear him. No, he needed to think this through carefully. Play it smart. "Alfie, what exactly is the Pleiades Concordance?" The Concordance is a cooperative alliance of 17 spacefaring species dedicated to exploration, knowledge sharing, and peaceful coexistence. Your species was under observation but had not yet achieved the technological benchmarks for formal contact at the time of my last update. Milo ran a hand through his short, dark hair. "And when was your last update?" 103 standard years, 47 days, 14 hours ago, as previously stated." "Right. And what happened then? Why did you go into hibernation?" There was a brief pause. "Data incomplete. My final log indicates an anomalous temporal energy cascade during routine observation. Emergency protocols initiated hibernation sequence to prevent further distortion." "Temporal energy? You mean like time travel?" That would be a simplistic but not entirely inaccurate interpretation. Milo sank down to sit on the edge of the control platform, his mind spinning with the implications. A time-traveling alien ship that had somehow crashed. No, not crashed. There was no damage. Arrived on the moon a century ago. "So, Alfie, what are your current operational capabilities?" "Primary systems at 81% functionality, navigation, life support, and defensive measures fully operational. Temporal displacement drive at 64% capacity, requiring platinum group elements for repair sequence." Milo's pulse quickened. Platinum he could get. It would be expensive, but not impossible. and a ship with defensive measures and a temporal displacement drive could be his ticket not just off the moon, but to anywhere and any time he wanted to go. "Alfie, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship," he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. He spent the next hour exploring the ship, marveling at its sleek design and intuitive interfaces. Though alien in origin, something about the layout felt natural, as if designed with human ergonomics in mind. Alfie explained that the Concordance crafted its vessels to accommodate multiple species, with adaptive systems that reconfigured based on the user's physiology. The ship was roughly the size of a small colony transport, compact enough to conceal but spacious enough to live comfortably. Besides the control room, it contained living quarters, a medical bay with technology far beyond anything Milo had seen, and a cargo hold currently empty save for maintenance equipment. Most impressive was the engine room, where crystalline structures pulsed with soft blue light. Milo recognized elements of the design from theoretical papers he'd studied: quantum entanglement cores, gravitic manipulation arrays, but implemented with an elegance that made human engineering look primitive by comparison. As fascinating as the discovery was, reality soon intruded. His oxygen reserves were running low, and he needed to return to the colony before anyone noticed his absence. "Alfie, I need to leave for a while, but I'll be back," Milo said, retrieving his helmet. "Can you, I don't know, cloak yourself or something, keep others from finding you?" Perception filters engaged. External visibility will be minimized. However, direct physical contact will still reveal my presence. "Good enough for now, just hang tight." Milo sealed his helmet and stepped back through the doorway, which closed seamlessly behind him. He carefully brushed regolith over the section of hull he'd exposed, then straightened and surveyed his work. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary, just another patch of lunar surface. As he made his way back toward the colony, his mind buzzed with plans and possibilities. He needed platinum. He needed discretion. And there was only one person he knew who could provide both: Zara Voss, his ex-partner, the woman who'd sold him out 3 years ago on a salvage job that should have set them both up for life. The last person he wanted to see, and the only one who could help him now. The airlock cycled with agonizing slowness as Milo returned to Epsilon Colony. He stepped into the decontamination chamber, enduring the customary scan and spray of antibiotic mist before the inner door finally opened to admit him to the main concourse. Epsilon's central hub buzzed with the usual evening activity. Miners ending their shifts, merchants hawking everything from synth noodles to black market oxygen cartridges, security drones hovering overhead, their red scanner beams sweeping methodically through the crowd. Milo kept his head down, navigating the familiar corridors toward the lower levels where the less respectable businesses operated. His small apartment was in Sector 7, but he wasn't heading home yet. First, he needed information. The pressure drop was a dive bar in every sense: low ceiling, dim lighting, and an atmosphere thick with tension and cheap synthetic alcohol. Milo slid onto a stool at the bar, nodding to the bartender, a burly woman with a cybernetic eye who went by the name of Rook. "The usual?" she asked, already reaching for a glass. "Not tonight, just information. Heard anything about Zara?" Rook's organic eye narrowed. "Voss? Thought you two were finished." "We are business inquiry, that's all." She snorted but leaned closer. "Word is she's running salvage out of Bay 16. Doing well for herself, too. Moved up from scrap to high-end components. Rumor has it she's got corporate connections these days." Milo kept his expression neutral despite the twist of bitterness in his gut. Of course, Zara had landed on her feet after betraying him. She always did. "Oh, thanks, Rook." He slid a 5-credit chip across the bar, more than he could afford. But information was worth it. Bay 16 was on the commercial level, a step up from the salvage yards where Milo usually operated. He made his way there, rehearsing what he'd say to Zara when he saw her. 3 years of anger and hurt competed with his urgent need for her help. The bay's main door was closed, but the smaller personnel entrance stood ajar. Milo slipped inside, finding himself in a cavernous space filled with shipping containers and partially disassembled machinery. In the center of it all stood a sleek shuttle, far nicer than anything Milo had ever piloted, with its access panel open and a pair of legs sticking out from underneath. "Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying," came a familiar voice, slightly muffled by the shuttle's hull. "And if you're buying, come back during business hours." "Hello, Zara," Milo said, unable to keep the edge from his voice. The legs stiffened, then quickly slid out from under the shuttle. Zara Voss sat up, torch in hand, her expression shifting from surprise to wariness to a forced casualness in the space of a heartbeat. "Milo Tyrannus," she said, getting to her feet and wiping her hands on a rag. "Thought you'd have left this rock by now." She looked good, better than he remembered. Her dark hair was shorter now, cropped close to her scalp on the sides with a sweep of longer strands on top. New scars marked her brown skin, including a thin white line that ran from her left temple to her jaw. Her eyes were the same, though, sharp, assessing, the color of burnished copper. "That was the plan," he replied, when things got complicated. "They usually do." She tossed the rag aside and folded her arms. "What do you want? Because if it's about that job on Ceres—" "Water under the bridge," Milo lied. It wasn't, not really, but he needed her cooperation more than he needed to settle old scores. "I'm here about platinum." Zara's eyebrow arched. "Platinum? Since when do you deal in precious metals?" "Since now. Can you get it?" "Maybe." She circled him slowly, like a predator sizing up potential prey. "Depends on quantity, purity, and what you're offering in exchange. Platinum doesn't come cheap." "Milo, I need enough to repair a drive system, high purity." "That's specific." She stopped in front of him, studying his face. "And suspicious. What kind of drive?" Milo hesitated. He couldn't tell her about Alfie. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but he needed that platinum. Experimental personal project. "Bullshit." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "You found something. Something big. Will you help me or not?" Zara's eyes narrowed, calculating. 50-50 split on whatever it is. 70-30, my find, my risk. In 60-40, and I don't ask questions. Milo considered it was better than he'd expected. "Fine, but I need the platinum first." She laughed, the sound sharp and without humor. "Not a chance. You show me what you found, then we talk supply." "I can't. Not yet." Milo ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. "Look, I need you to trust me on this." "Trust?" Zara's expression hardened. "Like I trusted you with the navigation codes on that Ganymede run, the one that nearly got me spaced? That was different, and you know it. You sabotaged the cargo manifest to keep us both out of prison. You were too busy playing by the rules to see we were being set up." The old argument flared between them, familiar and sharp. Milo took a deep breath, forcing himself to focus on the present. "One look," he conceded finally. "But not here. Meet me at the edge of the desolation zone tomorrow, 0800 hours. Come alone, and bring sampling equipment for the platinum. If you like what you see, we have a deal." Zara studied him for a long moment before nodding slowly. 0800. But if you're wasting my time, Tyrannus. You'll wish those 17 credits in your account were enough for a ticket off this rock. Milo blinked in surprise. "How did you—" I make it my business to know who's desperate and who's not. She turned back to her shuttle. See you tomorrow. Don't be late. The next morning found Milo waiting nervously at the designated meeting point. His EVA suit freshly patched with sealant he'd bartered for using his last spare power cell. The Earth hung low on the horizon, a reminder of everything humanity had achieved and everything they had yet to discover. Zara arrived precisely on time, her own suit far newer and better maintained than his. She carried a compact case that presumably contained her sampling equipment. This better be good. Her voice crackled through the comm. I canceled a lucrative pickup for this. It's better than good, Milo promised, leading the way across the barren landscape. They traversed 3 kilometers in silence, the only sound their breathing and the crunch of boots on regolith. Milo's mind raced as they approached Alfie's location. He'd spent half the night worrying about this moment. If Zara decided the ship was worth more without him in the picture, he'd be easy enough to dispose of out here. No witnesses, no questions. But he needed her resources, her connections. And despite their history, some part of him still wanted to believe she wouldn't betray him twice. Here, he said finally, stopping at the spot where he'd found the ship the day before. Give me a minute. He knelt, brushing away the regolith to reveal the gleaming hull beneath. The moment his gloved hand made contact, the now familiar geometric patterns of light spread outward, culminating in the doorway's appearance. Through her helmet visor, he saw Zara's eyes widen in shock. What the hell is that? She whispered, all her customary bravado gone. That, Milo said, unable to keep the pride from his voice, is our ticket to the stars. He gestured for her to follow him inside. As they entered, the ship's systems illuminated the corridor, and Alfie's voice greeted them. Hey, welcome back, primary user. I detect an additional organic presence. Zara froze, her hand instinctively moving toward the pulse pistol strapped to her thigh. It's okay, Milo assured her. This is Alfie. He's the ship. The ship talks, Zara said flatly, slowly removing her helmet as the air pressure normalized. The alien ship talks. The alien ship does a lot more than talk, Milo replied, leading her toward the control room. Alfie, this is Zara Voss. She's an associate. Greetings, Associate Zara Voss. Would you prefer to be addressed by your full designation or a truncated form? Zara stared at the ceiling, clearly unsure where to direct her response. Zara is fine, she said cautiously. They spent the next hour exploring the vessel, with Milo explaining what he'd learned about Alfie's capabilities and origins. Zara's initial shock gave way to professional assessment, her salvager's eye cataloging technologies and materials that would revolutionize human engineering. This is unprecedented, she said finally, running her fingers along a control surface that rippled beneath her touch. Do you have any idea what this is worth? That's why I need the platinum, Milo explained. Alfie's temporal drive needs repairs. Once it's operational, we can take this ship anywhere. Anywhen. Temporal drive, Zara repeated, a gleam in her eye that Milo recognized all too well. Time travel. Simplified but not inaccurate, Alfie interjected. Zara turned to Milo, her expression suddenly serious. You realize what you found, right? This isn't just a payday. Milo, this is history-changing, civilization-altering. I know. The colonial authority will kill to get their hands on this. Or worse, the corporations will. She paced the control room, her mind visibly racing. We need to think bigger than platinum. We need a plan. We? Milo questioned, caution in his voice. Zara stopped pacing and met his gaze directly. 60-40, like we agreed. I get you the platinum, help you repair the drive, and we figure out our next move together. Partners. The word hung between them, loaded with history. Milo studied her face, searching for signs of deception. Finding none didn't necessarily mean they weren't there. Zara had always been an excellent liar. Partners, he agreed finally, extending his hand. She clasped it firmly, her grip strong and sure. I'll need 3 days to source the platinum without raising flags. In the meantime, keep this place hidden. Don't come back until we're ready to move. And how do I know you won't bring a corporate strike team instead of platinum? Zara's smile was sharp. Because 60% of infinite possibility is better than a one-time corporate payout. I'm a lot of things, Milo, but I've never been short-sighted. That much, at least, was true. The next 3 days were the longest of Milo's life. He went through the motions of his usual routine, taking small salvage jobs, eating at the communal canteen, retiring to his cramped apartment, all while his mind remained with the ship buried in the desolation zone. Each night, he researched colonial salvage laws on his data tablet, looking for loopholes that might protect his claim to Alfie. The regulations were clear about human vessels. Anything manufactured by Earth corporations or colonial industries belonged to those entities regardless of where or when it was found. But there were no provisions for non-human technology. The legal framework simply hadn't been designed with alien discoveries in mind. There was one promising clause, however. Abandoned vessels of unknown origin became the property of the finder after a 30-day registration period, assuming no one else laid claim. The trick would be registering Alfie without triggering the intense scrutiny that would certainly follow. On the morning of the 4th day, his comm pinged with a message from Zara. Package acquired. Meet at the usual place. 1400 hours. Milo's heart raced as he made his preparations. He gathered his tools, a portable diagnostic unit he'd modified to interface with Alfie's systems, and a small personal item, a silver pocket watch that had belonged to his grandfather. The only family heirloom he'd managed to keep through years of financial hardship. The watch didn't work anymore, its mechanism too delicate for amateur repair. But Milo carried it as a reminder of Earth and the family he'd left behind. Perhaps, with Alfie's help, he might see them again someday. Zara was already waiting when he arrived at the edge of the desolation zone, a reinforced case clutched in her gloved hands. Any problems? Milo asked as they began their trek to Alfie's location. Nothing I couldn't handle, she replied cryptically. Had to call in some favors, grease a few palms, the usual. And no one followed you? Please, she sounded offended. This isn't my first questionable transaction. They reached the ship without incident, and Alfie welcomed them aboard with the same courteous tone as before. In the engine room, Zara opened her case to reveal several small ingots of platinum, gleaming softly in the blue light of the crystalline drive components. Will this be sufficient? She asked, addressing Alfie directly. Material quantity and purity are adequate for repair sequence, the ship confirmed. Estimated completion time, 6 hours, 17 minutes. Perfect, Zara said, handing the platinum to Milo. While that's processing, we should discuss our next steps. I've been thinking about your salvage law angle. Milo raised an eyebrow as he began feeding the platinum into a receptacle that had appeared in one of the drive housings. You checked my search history? Of course I did. And you're on the right track, but there's a simpler solution. She pulled out her data tablet, bringing up a form. We register Alfie as a custom-built exploration vessel, experimental design, privately funded. The form doesn't specifically require human origin certification. That's actually brilliant, Milo admitted, studying the document. A legal gray area. My specialty, she smiled. We file this now, and in 30 days, Alfie is officially salvage, our salvage. And in the meantime, we keep a low profile and prepare for departure. I've already started liquidating my non-essential assets. Once the registration period expires, we can be off this rock within hours. Milo nodded slowly, the plan taking shape in his mind. It could work. They could actually pull this off. The repair sequence initiated with a soft hum, the platinum gradually being absorbed into the crystalline structure of the drive. Milo and Zara spent the next few hours in the control room, finalizing details of their plan and exploring Alfie's navigation systems. The ship contained star charts far more extensive than anything in human databases, including detailed information about systems humanity had yet to discover. As the repair neared completion, a warning klaxon suddenly blared throughout the ship. "Alfie, what's happening?" Milo demanded, rushing to the control platform. "Temporal energy surge detected," the ship responded, its usual calm voice tinged with urgency. "Repair sequence has triggered a cascade effect in the displacement drive. Recommend immediate stabilization protocols." The floor beneath them trembled, and through the ship's external monitors, Milo saw distortion waves rippling across the lunar surface. "Stabilization protocols?" Zara shouted over the alarm. "How do we do that?" "A primary user must interface with navigation system to manually route excess temporal energy," Alfie explained. "Immediate action required." A section of the control platform reconfigured itself, forming what appeared to be a reclined seat with neural interface nodes. "That doesn't look promising," Milo muttered, eyeing the contraption warily. "A failure to stabilize will result in catastrophic temporal distortion affecting a 12-kilometer radius." Alfie added, "Estimated casualties. All personnel within Lunar Colony Epsilon." Milo's blood ran cold. The entire colony, thousands of people, would be caught in whatever temporal disaster was brewing if he didn't act. "I do it," Zara urged, gripping his arm. "We don't have a choice." Before Milo could respond, the ship's sensors triggered another alarm. "Multiple approaching vehicles detected," Alfie announced. "Configuration matches colonial security transports. Estimated arrival, 3 minutes, 42 seconds. On the monitor, Milo could see the dust clouds kicked up by the approaching vehicles. The distortion waves must have registered on colony sensors. "They'll confiscate the ship," Zara said, her voice tight with tension. "Or worse, they'll try to shut down the drive incorrectly and trigger the very disaster we're trying to prevent." Milo made his decision. "Alfie, initiate the interface. I'll stabilize the drive." "Acknowledged. Please recline on the configured surface." Milo sat in the formed seat, which immediately adjusted to his body. Neural interface nodes extended, making contact with his temples and the base of his skull. A tingling sensation spread across his scalp. "This procedure carries significant risk to organic neural systems," Alfie cautioned. "Are you certain? Primary user Milo Tyrannus?" Milo looked at Zara, who nodded encouragingly despite the fear evident in her eyes. "I'm certain," he confirmed. "Let's do this." The world dissolved into light and sensation as his consciousness merged with Alfie's systems. It was disorienting at first, like trying to see in all directions simultaneously while processing vast amounts of data. Gradually, the chaos resolved into patterns, and Milo found himself perceiving the temporal energy flows as rivers of light coursing through the ship's systems. He could sense the cascade effect now, a feedback loop building between the newly repaired components and the main drive. With intuitive movements that felt like both thought and physical action, he began redirecting the energy, creating pathways for it to flow harmlessly through the ship's systems rather than erupting outward. Distantly, he was aware of Alfie's voice communicating with Zara, of the approaching security forces. But these concerns seemed secondary to the intricate dance of energies he was orchestrating. Security forces have breached the perimeter. Alfie's voice filtered through his consciousness. Perception filters failing due to energy fluctuations. How much longer? Zara's voice, tense with urgency. Drive stabilization at 67%. Estimated completion 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Hey, we don't have 2 minutes. They're right outside. Milo redoubled his efforts, channeling the temporal energy more aggressively. If he could complete the stabilization before security breached the ship. But it was too late, through Alfie's external sensors. Milo perceived the security team approaching the entrance, weapons drawn. The ship's door wouldn't hold them for long. An idea formed in his mind, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but their only option. Instead of merely stabilizing the drive, he could initiate a controlled temporal displacement, a jump. Alfie, he communicated through the neural interface. Can we use the current energy surplus to execute a temporal jump? Affirmative, but coordinates and displacement interval would be unpredictable given current instability. Alfie responded directly into his mind. High risk of materialization in hazardous space-time location. Be better than being dissected by colonial security. Milo decided to prepare for temporal displacement. Acknowledged, reconfiguring energy pathways. Milo felt the ship's system shift beneath his guidance, the rivers of light now flowing toward the displacement drive core. Through external sensors, he saw the security team at the door, attaching what appeared to be a breach charge. Zara, he managed to say through his physical body, the words feeling strange on his tongue after communicating directly with Alfie. Brace yourself. We're jumping. A jumping? Jumping where? When, he corrected. And I don't know exactly. Somewhere else. Someone else. The security team's breach charge detonated, the door beginning to slide open just as the temporal displacement drive reached critical energy levels. A displacement initiated, Alfie announced. The world outside the ship, the moon, the approaching security forces, the Earth hanging in the void, seemed to stretch and distort, colors bleeding into one another as reality itself bent around the vessel. Milo felt a sensation like falling in every direction simultaneously. His consciousness both inside his body and spread throughout the ship's systems. Through the neural interface, he experienced visions of other times, other places, stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling, the vast sweep of cosmic history flowing around him like water. It was beautiful and terrifying, and more than a human mind was meant to comprehend. Just when he thought his sanity might shatter under the strain, everything stabilized. The neural interface gently disengaged, leaving Milo gasping on the reclined seat, his body trembling with exhaustion. Temporal displacement complete, Alfie announced, its voice somehow deeper, richer than before. All systems nominal. External environment appears stable. Milo struggled to sit up, his muscles protesting after the intense mental exertion. Zara was there immediately, helping him, her face pale but determined. Did we make it? He asked, his voice hoarse. Are we safe? See for yourself, she replied, gesturing toward the main monitor. The screen showed a star field unlike any Milo recognized, dominated by a blue-green planet that resembled Earth but with unfamiliar continental outlines. And in orbit around that planet was a sprawling space station, a marvel of engineering that dwarfed anything humanity had constructed in his time. But where are we? Milo whispered. Current location. In orbit around human colony world Kepler 186f. Alfie informed them. Local calendar date corresponds to approximately 78 standard years after our departure point. 78 years, Zara repeated, awe in her voice. We jumped 78 years into the future. And we're alive, Milo added, still unable to believe they'd escaped. What about the colony? Epsilon? Temporal distortion was contained within ship systems during jump, Alfie assured him. No damage to lunar surface or colonial structures. Relief washed over Milo. They hadn't just saved themselves, they'd prevented a disaster that could have killed thousands. A communication alert chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from the space station. "We're being hailed," Zara said, moving to the communications console. "Should we respond?" Milo hesitated. They had no idea what kind of reception they might receive in this future era. Would they be welcomed as explorers? Arrested as fugitives? Studied as curiosities from the past? "Alfie, what can you tell us about the current political situation? Is it safe to respond?" "Scanning available communications channels," the ship replied. "Data indicates this is a prosperous human colony with positive relations with several non-human species. The station appears to be a diplomatic and trade hub. No immediate signs of hostility." Milo nodded. "Let's answer then. Audio only, until we know more." Zara activated the comm system. "This is the exploration vessel. Alfie, responding to your hail. Please identify yourselves." A moment of static, then a crisp, authoritative voice replied. "Unidentified vessel. This is Kepler Central Control. Your ship configuration is not in our registry, and you appeared in our space without proper arrival protocols. Please identify your origin and purpose." Milo moved to join Zara at the console. "This is going to sound strange," he began, "but we've just arrived from the past. Lunar Colony Epsilon, circa 2137. A long pause followed his statement. "Stand by for verification," the voice finally responded after another moment. "Our sensors confirm unusual temporal energy signatures consistent with your claim. Please maintain position. A diplomatic shuttle is being dispatched to your coordinates." The transmission ended, leaving Milo and Zara staring at each other in nervous anticipation. "Now what?" Zara asked. "Now we wait," Milo replied, settling back into the pilot's seat. "And hope the future is friendlier than our past." They didn't have to wait long. Within 20 minutes, a sleek shuttle approached, its design more elegant and advanced than anything from their time. It maneuvered alongside Alfie, extending a docking tube that sealed against the ship's airlock with a soft hiss. "Prepare for boarding," Alfie announced. "External atmospheric compatibility confirmed." Milo and Zara positioned themselves near the airlock, uncertain what to expect. The door cycled open to reveal a tall woman in a crisp uniform adorned with insignia neither of them recognized. Her dark hair was streaked with silver, her bearing military but not threatening. She was flanked by two aides who remained in the docking tube while she stepped aboard. The woman surveyed the ship with evident interest before turning her attention to Milo and Zara. When her gaze fell on Milo, something flickered in her eyes, a recognition that made no sense given the circumstances. "Fascinating," she said finally. The historical records were accurate after all. "Historical records?" Milo questioned. The woman smiled. "Allow me to introduce myself. Admiral Zara Tyrannus Voss, commander of Kepler Defense Forces and liaison to the Pleiades Concordance." Milo felt the deck shift beneath him, though the ship remained stable. "Tyrannus Voss?" The admiral's smile widened. "Yes, grandfather, it seems your temporal jump was always part of our history." "Grandfather?" Milo and Zara exclaimed in unison, exchanging shocked glances. "I don't understand," Milo continued, struggling to process this revelation. "How is this possible?" Admiral Voss gestured around her. "This ship, Alfie, has been the cornerstone of human relations with the Concordance for over 7 decades. And you, Milo Tyrannus, are recorded as the first human to make formal contact with a concordant species." She turned to the younger Zara. "And you, grandmother, became our first ambassador to the Pleiades systems." Zara looked faint, Ambassador me? History is full of surprises, the Admiral replied with a hint of amusement. But we shouldn't discuss too much about your personal futures. Temporal mechanics can be delicate. Milo's mind raced, trying to reconcile this unexpected turn of events. So we're not in trouble? For stealing an alien ship and time-jumping into the future? Admiral Voss laughed, the sound reminding Milo uncannily of the younger Zara standing beside him. Quite the contrary. You're about to be welcomed as honored historical figures whose actions helped forge the alliance that brought prosperity to 17 species across 3 star clusters. She gestured toward the docking tube. If you'll accompany me to the station, arrangements have been made for your reception. The Concordance representatives are particularly eager to meet you. As they prepared to disembark, Milo paused, turning back to the control room. What about Alfie? Your ship will remain your ship, Admiral Voss assured him. Though I believe you'll find it has developed considerably since your initial acquaintance. As if in response, Alfie's voice emanated from the ship's systems, now even richer and more nuanced than before. I look forward to continuing our partnership. Milo Tyrannus, the future holds much for us to explore together. Milo smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. From 17 credits and desperate scavenging to this, a future beyond anything he could have imagined. As they entered the docking tube, following Admiral Voss toward the gleaming station, Zara leaned close to whisper in Milo's ear. Grandfather, huh? Seems we have an interesting future ahead of us. Milo chuckled, glancing at the Admiral who led the way, their granddaughter from a life they had yet to live. So it seems. Partners after all. We partners, she agreed, and this time when she took his hand, there was no hesitation, no lingering distrust, just possibility. The docking tube connected them to a vast, light-filled atrium where delegations from multiple species waited in formal array. Admiral Voss led them forward to meet representatives of the Pleiades Concordance, beings of shapes and forms Milo could hardly comprehend, yet who greeted him with evident respect and what he somehow recognized as warmth. As ceremonial introductions began, Milo caught a glimpse of Earth through a massive viewport, still blue, still beautiful, but now just one world among many that humanity called home. His journey had begun with desperation and 17 credits to his name. It was ending, or perhaps just beginning again with friendship, purpose, and a universe of opportunity. Behind him, he knew. Alfie waited, no longer just a ship but a friend and partner in the adventure to come. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Milo Tyrannus felt truly, completely free.